All right, so now let's talk about commands with pronouns. Specifically, object pronouns is what we're going to do in this activity. If you remember your object pronouns, those are direct objects, indirect object pronouns. You remember those are the me, te, le, nos, os, les. Those are the indirect object pronouns. Your direct ones were the me, te, lo, la, nos, os, los, and las. When you learn those, you learn to always put those in front of a conjugated verb unless, and the only times you would put them on the end or attach them to the end of a verb is if it's the infinitive, like decirlo, that progressive tense, like diciéndolo, or a positive command, like dilo. Okay, so let's look at some of the examples that we have. Okay, if it's a negative command, you put your pronoun in front. So if we have a sentence like no ponga la mesa, don't set the table, and we want to change it and say don't set it, we put the la, which is referring to it is the table, right? No la ponga, don't set it. Okay? So negative commands, pronouns go right in front. Okay? This is really useful for when you are answering questions. So for example, if somebody asks you something like, ¿Debo pagar la cuenta? Should I pay the bill? No, don't pay it. Okay, so the it part goes right in front of your negative command. Okay? Another example, ¿Debemos pedir el menú? No, no lo pidan. Should we ask for the menu? No, don't ask for it. The it part goes in front of your verb. It's different if it's an affirmative command. If you're telling somebody to do something, then you have to put the pronoun right attached to the end of the verb. And so when you do that, you're probably going to have to add an accent mark because you're changing the number of syllables and the pronunciation rules are going to affect that. So look at some examples. Por favor, ponga la mesa. Please set the table. Okay, so if you want to say please set it, por favor, póngala. Notice you attach it to the end of the command, but I also add an accent mark. Okay, you're not always going to add an accent mark. The only time you wouldn't is when you have one pronoun on the end of a single syllable command, right? Like you remember those irregular two-form commands, like pon, sal, whatever. So if this was an informal command, for example, por favor ponga la mesa, instead if I said por favor pon la mesa, if I got rid of that and made it informal, I said por favor pon la mesa, I would say por favor ponla, no accent. That would be the informal command. Okay? So let's look at some more examples. Debemos pagar la cuenta, sí, páguela. Should we pay the check? Yes, pay it. So the la attached to the end with an accent mark on the a. Okay? Debemos pedir el menú? Sí, pídanlo. Yeah, order it or ask for it. Okay? El menú becomes lo attached to the end, and you're going to have to add that accent mark. Okay? Now, if it is a nosotros command, that's going to be a little bit different. Debemos vestirnos. Should we get dressed? Yeah, let's get dressed. So with the nosotros commands, if you remember, vistamos would be the command, but when we add pronouns to the end and it's like reflexive or it's, if it's reflexive like this, for example, then that S in between the O and the S has to be eliminated, right? So on its own, it would be vistamos. But when you put the nos on the end, you get rid of that S. So instead of vistamos nos, you wouldn't say it like that. It'd be vistámonos. Okay? ¿Debemos vestirnos? Sí, vistámonos. Should we get dressed? Yeah, let's get dressed. Remember, this is reflexive verb, so it's like, should we dress ourselves? Yes, let's dress ourselves. Okay? So that's just a quick look at how to, or what to do with your object pronouns and your reflexive pronouns when you have commands. Make sure to reach out if you have any questions.